Hey y'all, this is Judith of judithtamara.com, Judith Tamara Design, and today is the third on the series of how to create transformative sacred space. And today, I think it's going to be pretty short. It's called the noticing practice. It's a really foundational practice for doing this kind of work. And so the basic concept behind the noticing practice is that we have emotional, psychological, spiritual, and energetic reactions to specific physical objects, kinds of spaces, material, textures, colors, a whole gamut of the senses: smell, scent, sound, feeling, and that sort of thing. So we don't always notice as we're going through life what things are causing us to feel a certain way. This happens very subconsciously. There's all sorts of reasons why we have this link between emotions and our physical environment and specific physical objects. Some of it is past experiences, some of it is just the nature of who we are, our innate preferences. Some are movies we've seen, some are meanings that people have given us to different objects, or meanings that we've created around different objects based on all sorts of experiences, events, and so forth in our lives. So there's a huge gamut as to why we have these things, but the result is that we have links between our internal world and our internal experience and our external world. So the noticing practice is actually about learning how to notice when we're feeling things. And there are two basic ways of practicing this. It's, as formally or informally as you want, but there are two basic kind of ways. So like, let's say you want in an environment, an office environment, or other environment that you live in, a kitchen, a dining room, whatever. Let's talk about offices. So let's say that you want to feel calm, or to feel focused, or to feel revitalized, or any number of things. And if you want to take a moment and sort of think about how you want to feel in your office, just a quick thought to yourself when you're working. And then if you start going around the world with this, like let's say you want to feel energized. We go around with that sort of tucked in the back of your brain, and notice when you're feeling energized. Just notice. Is it when you're hiking? Is it when you're in a coffee shop? Is it when you're with friends? Or when you're not with friends? Is it any number of things, right? Notice when you feel it. And then take a pause at that moment where you notice that you're feeling energized, and look around you. Sort of take an inventory of the senses. Is there a smell? Is there quality to the air? Is there a quality to the sound? Are things muffled? Are things, do they have a certain humming level? Just sort of like, don't get overly analytical, but just sort of like make note of this quality. And you can even, have a special part of a journal or something like that. You can jot it down and say, I feel calm when there's sort of this gentle hum going on in the background, or I feel energized when there's, a lot of movement around me, or when there's not a lot of movement around me. Just write it down. And over time, keep paying attention to that. And soon after a while, you'll actually have sort of this list of physical attributes that are useful for you. So for example, I feel very calm and centered and grounded when I hear rain, which is very convenient because I live in the Pacific Northwest. I did not grow up in the Pacific Northwest, but I feel incredibly calm when I hear rain. I especially feel calm when I hear rain on a tin roof. My whole heart goes, ah. And it took me years before I suddenly remembered that when I was a small child, my mother, when there was a big rainstorm where I was growing up, sometimes she would put me and my brother and she'd bring a table in and she'd put it down and she'd do dinner and put all the dinner stuff out, and me and my brother would have dinner in the shed with a tin roof with my dad's garden all spread out in front of it. It was an open, the door was open so you could see all around it. And it was an incredible experience of being independent for me and being calm and being, powerful in that moment. So I have a relationship between that kind of quality of rain on a tin roof and this sort of transcendent, wonderful experience. So that's the first way you can do it, with a specific quality that you're looking for. The second way you can do it is if you build on the practice that I taught last week previously, which is the in, down, up, out, can't remember the order, directional meditation, which is about noticing how your energetic field is expanding or contracting. Now, this is a really good way to practice the noticing practice, because you can take that directional meditation or directional practice out into the world or in your work environment or any sort of environment. You can practice, noticing, well, I'm really grounded now, or I'm really not grounded now, and all that sort of thing. And you can start taking an inventory, pausing and taking an inventory of what kind of environment is around you. Now, another thing I want to point out about this is that sometimes we see what we want to see and not see what we don't want to see. That's habit. So really taking the time to notice things that are it's very helpful to really get into your body. So noticing things like where your hand is. What is it touching? It's touching wood. Or is it touching something smooth? Or is it touching something soft? Are you sitting in a chair that is cushioned? Or is it a chair that is harder? Is there bright colors or are there muted colors? Is there a lot of light? A lot of the time, the quality of light is really important. For example, do you like, the color of the sky when it's just finished a rainstorm? For me, that's a big one. Do you like the color of the light or the feeling of the light in the morning versus the afternoon? Or do you like twilight? Or do you like sparkly lights all around you? Does that feel festive? That intimacy of detail. Another thing that I think people don't necessarily or look for is also looking at the spatial quality around them. So, for example, how do you feel when you're enclosed? Is there a point where you feel too enclosed? Is there a point where you need more enclosure? How do you feel when you are up high? For me, again, another important memory for me is being up high in tree houses. There's a lot of power for me up in tree houses. Almost all my offices have been located on the second floor looking down onto gardens. So noticing the containment, the quality of the containment, the quality of the light, quality of the sound, scent, all of those things. Just taking a moment and settling into the physical environment around you. That's the noticing practice in a nutshell. Then I also mentioned already to take this out on field trips. Do that consciously. You can actually put yourself in situations that might be a new situation versus a more comfortable situation, and then noticing the difference. And the effect of this is at the end of doing this for a while, you'll start to get, a picture painted in many ways of the kind of space that will promote the kind of feelings that you want. And so, you may decide, I want to feel energized and calm in my office. These are the two qualities that I want. How do I bring those physical objects, physical kind of space into my environment so that I feel that way? Because materials will cue those emotions and feelings. So that is it. I hope you enjoyed this one. And next week, we will be doing the final one, which is about Well, I'll keep that a secret. It's one of the simplest and yet most important steps for creating a very sacred space. All right, take care. Bye-bye.